Ladies and gents, welcome back. Why do we keep listening to the experts that were wrong? The ones that were telling us something, they were wrong about it then, and we keep listening to them now. And we actually even shun the ones that were right in times when they were actually correct about a thing. They're often taken off the news. They're no longer used as experts anymore. But we keep listening to people that give us the words that we want to hear. And I really want to showcase this story that was brought to my attention by a good friend here. And this is a story from back in, published in March 24th, 2015 by the Financial Post. And this is Now and Then. Do Canadian homes really cost that much more than 30 years ago? And this calls into question the fact that people are often saying, like, hey, back in the 1980s, I could have bought a home for a lot less. Is that true? And this is what's being compared here in this article. In 1985, the average home price in Toronto was $109,000. Currently, the average home will set you back $566,000. This is, of course, back in 2015. So that was the price then. I believe it's $1 million now. It's doubled since then. But hey, we're gonna go based on what they've told us in this time. Let's have a look at what they were saying and some of the factors that I think are really important and telling for either is a misunderstanding here of how what's being read in the data, or it's a willingness to lie with statistics as it's said. This provides some perspective, but it doesn't tell the whole story, says this article. It's hard to scan the Canadian newspaper these days without coming across an article about the country's lofty real estate prices. Oh boy, wait another 8 years. You'll be hearing a lot more about that. Yeah, right here in 2023, we're really hearing about that. And it's also hard for parents to tell their kids the "I used to walk to school barefoot" stories, or is it? Is it really that much more expensive to own a home these days than it was 30 years ago? I think thinking of buying a home in West Vancouver, your income has to be better than at least $320,000 a year. Well, again, it's way more than that. But to buy a house in Trois-Rivières, though, your salary would only have to be just under 40 grand to be able to afford one of those homes. Let's focus on the particulars for the country's largest city and one of the two crown jewels in the real estate market, Toronto, the other one being Vancouver, of course. In 1985, the average home price was $109,000, according to the real estate board. Currently, the average home is $566,000. Now it's over $1 million, but this is from the perspective of 2015. Just as Prime Minister Trudeau is getting into office, by the way, he's really helped us out with those housing prices. Prices has therefore risen by 5.65 annualized over the past 30 years. During that time, prices rose quickly from 1985 to 1989, then fell again in 96, and have since been on a near straight line upwards. Back in 1985, the median Toronto income was approximately $31,000, just under $32,000. So a house cost 3.141 times the median family income. Currently, family income in Toronto is about $74,366, meaning the home value to income ratio currently stands at 7.62 times income, more than double the ratio from 30 years ago. Score 1 for the prices are crazy right now team. Now, a lot of this article is predicated on this one. Well, it's shown as a fact, but this is not a fluid situation. This is absolutely not a fluid situation, and I'll show you in the graph that they have here. Now, they show here home prices over the time period have gone out by 419%, so they quadrupled in price, and the median family income doubled. Now, what they're going to get into in the rest of the article is how lending standards have relaxed a lot, and also interest rates have come down considerably since the 1980s. But well, that fast forward, where interest rates are going up, so we're gonna have to cancel out these benefits that they've been showing. Although the interest rates did go up to as high as 19% prime rates from the Federal Reserve in the United States at the time. In Canada, it was very similar. Really, really high interest rates in the 1980s, which led to a massive decline in the prices of homes. But then they quickly shot up again as interest rates went down. But the main thing I really want to show you is where either it's a misunderstanding in how these statistics are brought together, or it's a bald-faced, I'm not telling you the truth of the situation. Median family income is a dubious number because they're not talking about median personal income. A person's personal income may be a completely different story from the 1980s till today, compared to family income. Now, what you might be asking, well, why is it a difference? Why is there a difference? Well, if you just look back to the amount of families, the amount of households in the 1980s that had two people working in the household to bring in that family income versus today, the number of people, households that had two family incomes to bring in that income. It paints a completely different picture about prosperity in our country. The fact that people have to not only have two members, the mother and the father at home, working to bring this family income, but maybe they have two jobs now. Maybe they have three jobs. Maybe they have a part-time job, a moonlighting job, and then another gig on the side just to bring in a little bit more income. Maybe even the kids are chipping in these days just to bring income into the family. These factors aren't added. They're not shown in a clear sight. So if we're trying to compare apples to apples, as this article is trying to say, you're not comparing apples to apples because you're showing a completely different dynamic of the family house situation, because people have made financial decisions on taking on new income streams, taking on new lines of work, limiting their amount of free time, their amount of time to spend with their families, amount of time to stay at home with their families. They're limiting that because of economic factors in Canada that go beyond just what is being mentioned in this article. And this is why I think it's largely a dubious claim. But of course, I'll leave a link in the description. You can read through the article yourself if you maybe you find that you disagree with me on this option. But as we move forward into 2023, we're seeing things like the Bank of Canada hiking interest rates. Once again, there may be more to come. Now, a lot of people in the real estate market were saying up until just this week, no, they've cooled off. Don't worry, let's get back into buying houses. I mean, obviously they have an incentive to sell you houses because they want to make their commissions, whatever. This is an industry. They sell things, they'll say whatever they got to sell the products. But I actually had a bet with a friend. It was just a friendly bet, but I said interest rates were going to go up by 0.25%, 2.5 basis points. It's the least that they can put it up, but the Bank of Canada nonetheless is doing that, and they did that exactly this week. Bank of Canada decided to raise its benchmark interest rates to 4.75% on Wednesday. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that is massive for people that are massively over leveraged on their mortgages because of the crazy prices in the real estate market right now. And a lot of people are forced into this. Now, in the 1980s, for example, if you looked at the 1980s and you said, well, interest rates were tremendously high. Well, that was an incentive for people to maybe get into a rental and put all their savings into a bank account. And all you had to do is put your savings into a bank account, and you were already not only hedging inflation, but you were making money. You were making money hand over fist compared to today, where today just putting your money into a bank account is not desirable because you're going to lose money just on the interest rate alone. We're going to lose money on the interest rate alone. You're not going to make money. So what are you forced to do? You're forced to either speculate in the stock market, you're forced to buy real estate. And this is what people are being told. Buy real estate, it's a store of wealth. Look at the prices of real estate. They're going up exponentially. And well, now people can't afford to even get into those investments. And not only that, people who thought that they could afford to do it are now finding that in the coming months and years, they may have to get out of those investments and take a massive loss on them. Now, other things that are making our housing situation worse as well, the carbon tax. It's unbelievable. An article from True North here. Canada is in the throes of a full-blown housing crisis, yet the federal government has nevertheless introduced progressively punitive carbon tax that by decade's end could decimate first-time homebuyers' dreams of home ownership, according to housing experts. The tax purports to curtail the country's carbon dioxide emissions with a levy that grew from $50 per ton in 2022 to $65 per ton this year, and which will surge to $170 a ton by 2030. This is not something that people can afford, and it's just absolutely crazy. Now, a lot of people in the news industry and all of this have ignored the people that have been right about this. The economic situation is the fundamentals. They just don't add up to what's going on and what people are purporting. But when people do have the correct information, they're always shunned afterwards and disinvited back to these panels. And I'll show you this famous clip from Peter Schiff back in 2006 when he absolutely correctly warned about the housing bubble in the United States and it about to pop, and he was absolutely laughed at on the news. And they kept bringing him back because they just wanted an outside perspective. But he turned out to be absolutely right.
Monetary policy is spectacular. We have freer trade than ever before. And not only that, but there are no incomes policies things here. I think Peter's just totally off base, and I don't think it's going to be, I just don't know where he's getting his stuff.
Well, one of us is off base, but it's definitely not me. It's not wealth that's increased in the last few years. We haven't increased our productive capacity. All that's increased is the paper values of our stocks and real estate. But that's not real wealth, no more than the NASDAQ was wealth. When you see the stock market come down and the real estate bubble burst, all that phony wealth is going to evaporate. And all that's going to be left is all the debt that we accumulated to foreigners.
Peter, I'm going to take a bet with you on this one. I'll bet you a penny on this one that if you'll sign a letter saying that if you're wrong, you'll sign a letter that you were wrong to me in this, but you're just way off base. There is nothing out there that tells us we're going to have a nice slowdown, but it's not going to be a crash.
Let me ask you this.
I'll bet you a lot more than a penny.
Point to the house.
I'll bet you a lot more than a penny, he says. And he was absolutely right. The stock market crashed. The Big Short, a lot of people know about that story. This was a massive downturn in the economy, and the housing bubble was largely the culprit. And we all know this now in hindsight. And it blew up, and it was massive, and a lot of people lost a lot. And it was because it was a big feeding frenzy at the time. And we saw a feeding frenzy like this in Canada as the housing market exploded, and these prices just went ridiculous, way into like houses, little townhouses in small towns costing $1 million. You can't sustain that. And of course, Pierre Poilievre is the one who's been ringing this bell for years, and he's ringing it today. And there's dire warnings here, and we need to listen to this. We really, really do.
There is a crisis in this country. And the crisis is not just that 1.5 million people are eating at food banks, or 1 in 5 are skipping meals because of the price of food. The crisis is not just that a majority of Canadians now tell pollsters they're struggling to make ends meet, or that even 9 in 10 young people believe they will never afford a home. The crisis isn't even that it takes 63% of average monthly income to make payments on the average monthly home a record-smashing height. The crisis isn't even that it now takes 98% of pre-tax income in Vancouver for the average family to pay mortgage on the average house. Those things are all insane and unprecedented, but they are the reality after 8 years. The real crisis is that there is a massive mortgage bubble that is ready to detonate in the years 2026 and 2027. Here is how this bubble occurred. Today, 38% of all mortgage debt was originated between January of 2021 and June of 2022, all when rates were at rock bottom.
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Because the government printed $400 billion of cash and pumped it into the financial system, causing it to be artificially abundant and artificially cheap. People took on mortgages they would otherwise not be able to afford.
How many households would become insolvent with a 2 percentage point increase in interest rates?
You know, these questions are extremely hypothetical. We have no intention of raising interest rates.
They had no intention of raising interest rates up until the point that they rose interest rates. It's insane. And now interest rates were virtually zero for a long time, and now they're way up at what, 4.75%, and that's the prime rate. When people's mortgages are going to adjust, they're going to be up in like the 7, 8, 9% range, depending on a lot of factors. But this is going to put people completely underwater. Mortgages are set to increase. The payments are going to be set to increase up to 40%. People can't afford this, and this is really what's happening today. I'll leave a link in the description to all the articles that I talked about, and including Pierre Poilievre's video, which is over 3 minutes long. You can go watch that. It's definitely worth a watch. We need to be listening to the people who are right then and who are right now. And this is what we're not doing. We keep listening to the people that have the incentive to keep this bubble going, to keep the real estate prices as high as possible. Municipalities have invested interest because they don't want their tax revenues to come short. Of course they don't. So, you know, there's a lot of people invested in making sure that those prices stay high. There's a lot of people who have properties and they want those prices to stay high. So they're happy to hear the news that they're going to stay high and that, you know, possibly interest rates are going to come down. They can't. Interest rates are a function of the market. They're being manipulated by governments, but they need to go up because they need to foster savings. We don't have any savings in our country. We're a huge debtor nation, not just as a nation, but as a citizenry. We're largely in debt. And that needs to turn around. And until that turns around, we're not going to have any capital growth in this country, and we're going to have malinvestment across the board. And unfortunately, the crash is the cure, and this is the reality of the situation. The recession is the cure, which will bring more prosperous times. And the more we stave it off, the worse it's going to be, and the longer it's going to take. So anyway, I just wanted to throw this out there as a discussion piece. Get in the comment section down below. Leave your comment. Tell me I'm full of crap. tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, or let me know your situation. What's happening in your life? What's happening with housing markets and all of this, or where do you see this? Where and how have you been preparing for it? Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. I won't be live tonight. I have my daughter is playing in her violin concert, so I'll be attending that instead of doing a live stream tonight. But looking forward to the comment section down below. I'll be checking it throughout the weekend because I really want to engage in this conversation to see where people stand on this and where they believe the market is going to move in the coming months and years. I've been seeing this, and I've been watching the economists that have been preaching about this bubble crash coming for years now, and a lot of people have been laughed off, and I've been laughed off in times before. But now it seems to be that those people that were always ignored, that were right before, it turns out that they're looking like they may be right one more time. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. We'll see you in the next one, and keep on trucking.